Hi, Scott. How are you?
Hello, Scott.
Good. How are you guys?
Weird, like torn.
We're great because the Guardians are in the playoffs.
Hey, so before you guys get too far, a little bit of news that's coming down. Multiple reports, including our buddy Scott Petrak. Texans are trading offensive tackle Cam Robinson to the Browns. So Cam Robinson heading to the Browns in a swap of late-round picks being rumored by multiple places.
Cam was a high draft choice at one point.
Yeah. Does that fix all the problems? There you go. They made a trade. Are we good? Should we forget about everything we've seen now that they might be able to go into a game with 4/5 of what they wanted to have on the offensive line rather than 3/5?
Well, probably can't hurt because having your third and fourth tackles in there is really not ideal. I thought Cornelius Lucas had a tough time when he was asked to go one-on-one versus Aiden Hutchinson, which is a tough matchup for anybody. I know they're hopeful Jack Conklin comes back. Hasn't been back yet. He's missed the last 3 games. Even with Jack, then you have an issue at left tackle. So, they were looking for tackles. I don't know if this means Cam Robinson's going to step in immediately to the starting lineup or what, but they added 2 tackles to the active roster within the last week, and that just shows you the depth issues they have there. And, they've kind of been snake bit at that position the last few years. They haven't been able to stay healthy. Even in 2023, when they made that playoff run, they were down to, I don't know if it was the 5th and 6th tackles. It was at least 4th and 5th by the time you got to the playoffs.
So you've brought in 2 guys who have had some starting experience. Cam Robinson, extensive experience. I would think they're out there quickly. Scott, how did this front office look at this offense and think before you ever even got to the draft and think, okay, we're okay. We don't need to put real high assets into it. And then, just looking at it before the season started and thought we're okay. I mean, it clearly is lacking for talent everywhere except maybe tight end and running back.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tackle spots, that's interesting because, they thought DeJuan Jones they hoped DeJuan Jones could be the answer at left tackle. Conklin was coming off a year where he stayed healthy once he got on the field and played well. They added guys, they added Cornelius Lucas. They had a trade for KT Leviston. They added Tevin Jenkins. So they did make some moves there because they know that depth has been a problem. But the reality is you can only keep so many tackles on your roster. Yep. Nobody has 6 starting caliber tackles on their roster. You try to have 4 guys, and I think they thought they had 4 at the beginning of the year, and then 2 of them get hurt within the first, 3 weeks and 4, the 4th snap of the 3rd game. So, a little bit that's unlucky when we're talking tackles, because I do think they tried to address that. Receiver is a different issue entirely, Jeff, and we've talked about it for months. I mean, we talked about it for years,
yes,
really. And all I can think I can attribute it to is they're in a rebuild of the roster to whatever degree you want to say it is, and they're looking for young guys to emerge, and they wanted to give them chances to do that. And that starts with Cedric Tillman. It includes Jamari Thrash. You bring in Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond showed up yesterday, caught a couple passes, also didn't get a foot, didn't get both feet in on a play that he should have on the sideline. Should have been a catch, turns into an incompletion, but he did make a couple plays. Jamari Thrash takes over for Cedric Tillman in the second quarter and played a bunch and doesn't get targeted and hasn't had any impact in a year and a quarter. And Cedric Tillman can't stay healthy, and he's inconsistent when he's on the field. And that doesn't mean he won't turn into something, but we're in year 3, and he doesn't look like a number 2 receiver to me, or at least hasn't done that over a sustained stretch. And then you have Jerry Jeudy, who yesterday said, hey, I'm the number 1 receiver on this team. I got to make those catches when he talks about the drop he had. So they don't have enough talent at receiver. And when we talk about the offensive struggles in general, I think it starts there. And yes, we could talk about protection, and they go hand in hand. But plenty of times yesterday from the press box, I'm looking down and going, guys aren't open. Like Joe looks, right? There's a designed read. He looks, the guy's covered. All of a sudden he's trying to get to 2 and 3, and I don't know if those guys are open. And it's really tough when you don't have guys to throw to, and then the one interception, Joe took the blame on that. But, did Tillman run the right route? Joe trusts him to go deep, and he cuts it off. And, Joe said he read it wrong, so maybe he did. Or he was covering for Tillman. The Jeudy the interception to Judy, it's not the first time a receiver has been out-muscled by a cornerback. And maybe there should have been a flag. Judy was looking for one. But, those plays, you expect your receivers to win, and they haven't won nearly enough.
Just looking at Brown Zone, and it's interesting just to kind of even see the layout of what you guys have on there today. Jim Ingram, a fantastic writer. His commentary is the Joe Flacco era appears to be coming to an end sooner rather than later. And then you have a story over in the corner. Joe Flacco knows what I signed up for as questions persist about job security. Just where are we with Joe Flacco?
Yeah, it's tough because I don't think a lot of it's Joe's fault for all the reasons I just laid out. And, he's thrown 6 interceptions this year. 2 of them in the first game went off receivers' hands.
Yep.
The one against Green Bay was a Hail Mary at the end of the half. And then yesterday, we just talked about those 2. And maybe one of them was his fault. I don't think the Judy one was. I'm still a little skeptical that the Tillman one was. Mm-hmm. So it looks terrible. So like I said, and the protection is not Joe's fault either. So I really don't blame the fact that the offense is this bad strictly on Joe Flacco. However, the offense is averaging 14 points a game, can't sustain anything, and quarterback's the position where if you make a change, maybe that changes something and sparks it. And you have the fact that Joe's 40 and you have 2 rookies behind him, and I think there is a desire organizationally to see these rookies. So again, I don't think Joe should be the fall guy for this, but if the Browns and Kevin Stefanski decided to make a change, it would be understandable in just for the search of a change and a spark that perhaps it could provide. Now, it could not work. Dillon Gabriel could be doomed by the same things that are dooming Joe Flacco, but the longer you see this offense not be able to do anything, I think the more, I know fans, but I think even inside the organization, it's what can we try? And I don't think Cam Robinson changes everything, but maybe a quarterback switch does. So I don't know if it's coming this week. I don't know if it's coming after London. Maybe if they win a couple games, it won't come. But the longer you see the offense, go quarters without scoring, the more it's like, oh, why don't you try something at quarterback? And Joe knows that. That's what he talked about that after the game. Like, he signed up for this. He knew what he was getting into. His job is to go out there and lead this team and win games. And when that doesn't happen, he knows the reality of the situation.
Scott Petrak joining us, Chronicle Telegram, brownzone.com. The first drive of the game, 88 yards, you go, you score, look great, well done. Can you help me? Why in the world on 2nd and 3rd down and goal to go do you have your 40-year-old quarterback try and sneak it in behind an offensive line that hasn't played too terribly well? He's not very mobile, and you have Quinshon Judkins sitting there in the backfield.
Yeah, I didn't have an issue with that call because they were inside the 1. Joe's 6'6". Like, it shouldn't be that hard.
Well, it shouldn't be, but it was.
6 inches. I get that it was, and maybe you don't do it anymore, but that's like the safest play in football is the quarterback sneak, big guy leaning forward. The fact that they couldn't get any push is concerning. So, yeah, I get that it didn't work, but I didn't have a problem with that because it should work. And if they got lucky, the fact that Judkins was able to, squeeze in there on 4th down, but he was stopped on 1st down too. But then he got it close enough to the goal line where that should be automatic. And the fact that it wasn't, I think, speaks to the offensive line.
All right, let me ask the other question. What are the odds of Deshaun Watson going back into the 21-day practice window this week?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, Kevin Stefanski would ask that today. I don't know if he's ready. I've seen the videos. I think there's differences between, working by yourself and working out in the field house and running around and throwing. Okay, let's start this clock. But I don't know, and we've always heard October, and October starts tomorrow. Is it right at the beginning of October or is it a couple weeks in? My guess is it won't be this week. We'll get the activation. But I think it's coming. But we'll see. There is a difference, like I said, between working out on your own and, okay, am I ready to go play in a football game? And I think all along the organization has thought it would be I don't know if a long shot's too strong, but for Watson to play this year. They were not counting on him. I still don't think they're counting on him. I know he's pushing really hard to get back and prove that he can play. So I would say probably not this week, but I can't say that for sure.
If he is healthy, Scott, I want to see him.
Why?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
And the reason is this. When they rolled out Joe Flacco, Dillon Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders as your quarterbacks, I thought, okay, well, who are we taking with those picks next year? And it's clear to me what the season was. I'm just wondering, is there any chance that he can come out and look any better than he did? And maybe, this isn't likely, maybe somebody else wants a quarterback, and they would trade for him. He's here, and he's here for this year and next, contractually anyway. I don't want to see him either, but I want to see him if he's healthy.
Yeah, the trade bait thing is interesting, Jeff. I don't know if anybody'd be willing to trade for that contract.
Yeah, I don't know what
the Browns have to do to make somebody.
Although it's not as outrageous as it once was.
Well, no, that's true. But I mean, I guess my thought is for another team to want to trade for him, he'd have to play great enough.
Yeah.
Then the Browns would have to consider keeping him, right? Because they're already paying him for next year.
Yeah.
And I feel like that ship has sailed. And I don't know why we would think that he would be better this year after not having played forever and being bad for the last however many games we saw him play. Could he be better than Joe Flacco? Sure, but this isn't about Joe Flacco. This is about moving forward, and you have two rookies that I would want to see at some point if the season goes like it looks it's going to go. I just don't see a huge upside. I feel like the organization wants to move past Deshaun Watson, and they'll be able to, just kind of bite the bullet and take that contractual, take it all on in the offseason and move on from him. I feel like that's been the plan, but plans change. So, yeah, I don't know. If you convince me that he played, you could trade him, then, yeah, I could see playing him. But, given him versus Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, I'd prefer to see those guys.
Scott, as always, are you going to London?
I'm not going to London.
That's okay. You can enjoy it with us here, back here. You can hang out with us. We'll have a little media party. We'll make up a fake. We'll have a fake press box.
Sauce, strawberries, and cream. Watch a game.
Very nice.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Scott. We'll talk to you soon. Of course, we're reading you every day.